Jane Whitney. Oh, good. Oh, there's two people. They come. Hello, friends.
Nope. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. There. Somehow I disappeared.
We still see you.
Is Jane still eating her dinner? You still eating your dinner, Jane Whitney? Oh, she's muted.
You know how to unmute?
There we go.
There you are.
No, I'm nibbling on my remaining pretzels for the day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which I hope is not your dinner.
Well,
You have a
actually, it
carb
is these
limit?
days. Cottage cheese and pretzels.
Comes Beth. Hi, Beth. Morgan couldn't help today, so I'm doing her role too. So we'll give it a couple minutes, make sure everybody gets in here that's trying to get in.
The Catholics are going to come in.
Oh, Marcia. Hi, Marcia.
Howdy. Can you hear the church bells?
Oh yeah.
Are you in Ephraim?
Nope, I'm in Bailey's Harbor, right above the Catholic Church.
I didn't know they did that because I'm way out by Moonlight Bay.
Nope, they do it at 8, noon, and 6,
Oh, nice.
and sometimes 3, and sometimes 7, and on Fridays at 5 to 8.
Is that the Catholic or the Lutheran?
The Catholic Church.
So tell me about the car in the parking lot that has the big confession sign on it. Are you supposed to drive up and do your confession, car to car?
Oh,
And saw him at the post office.
The confession car?
Yes.
interesting. I haven't seen that yet.
Oh, yeah.
Is it real?
Yeah, that's not my church, but by living right above it, you learn a lot.
Well, I'll watch for more people to come in if they try, but we might be a small group today. I did get a lot of emails today from people, sorry I can't make it for this reason or that. So things have come up, life happens, and we might be a little group, and that's okay. We'll still have a good chat. So thank you guys for being here, and I hope you've had a good day, and I hope you all enjoyed An American Marriage. Did everybody get to finish it?
And enjoy might be the wrong word.
Enjoy might be the wrong-
Did not enjoy.
Did not
Were you trying to encourage us, Tracy?
Well, I like the book. I just think enjoyment might not have been what it's pretty overwhelmingly depressing.
True.
I don't think I found it depressing. It's certainly troubling, but I was having trouble with the behaviors, I guess. Although it's interesting that all three of those young people came from families whose parents had some interesting relationships and came together in some interesting ways, what I consider non-traditional. Maybe I shouldn't consider it that anymore. So they were not from role modeling where you had kind of a very committed relationship to start with. But some of their behaviors I found really annoying. And that could be an age thing. I think,
A few years ago.
Why did Lydia go like this?
I agree with your use of the word.
Linda went like this.
I couldn't finish it. I just.
No.
Oh.
Do you want to tell us?
I first read the book.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. I first read the book a couple years ago when it first came out because it was on Obama's reading list of like his 10 favorite books of that year. I think maybe it was 2018. And I was really kind of disappointed. I mean, I thought the topic of the effect on the life of both the person and the person's family who is incorrectly convicted of a crime. I thought, that's such an important issue. And, we keep reading about it happening over and over again. And then I thought this just turned into kind of like a soap opera between the triangle there. And I didn't think it, I mean, yes, a lot of that stuff happened because he was in prison, but some of the stuff might have happened anyway, and I just didn't feel like it really focused on what I thought it should have focused on. And of course, you know, an author, and that's not fair to judge a book on what I wanted it to be. You should judge a book on what it is. But still, that was my reaction to the book the first time. Then I read it a second time because my book group at home did it. And actually, I liked it a little better, maybe because I knew what it was going to be. You know, and so I wasn't disappointed. I don't know. I'm just wondering if other people had that reaction as far as, I don't know, if they thought this was like the kind of story you would expect of an unjust, what happens after an unjust conviction. You know,
I knew
I just-
nothing of the book going into it. So when I read the title, An American Marriage, focusing on the marriage part, you know, I was sort of expecting, like you said, a soap opera type thing, you know, more relationship driven than a issue driven book. Now, if I would have read it thinking, oh, this is an issue related book, yeah, then I would have been. But that's not the way I went into it.
The fact that it's said American Marriage, I guess I figured it would be a little more universal to application, whereas it's not very universal. It's pretty specific to a marriage that fell apart during this man's incarceration. But I didn't like the format. I didn't like the letter format of the beginning. So.
I didn't finish it either, but I think it was more a matter of time when I read it that I didn't finish it. I did go to the discussion. We discussed it in Florida, like February of 19. And so most all of them liked it. And I did read like the end, and you know, I got a lot from their discussion and everything. I know one of the things they discussed was, why was it called An American Marriage? And you know, they thought that was making the point that there's more of this incarceration of Black people unfairly, you know, in America. But it was okay.
I loved it.
You loved it?
I did. I loved it. I enjoyed the inner thinkings and feelings of each of the characters as it was told, how they thought, how they felt. I really liked it.
Yeah, she did make some interesting writing choices with having each of the three main characters kind of tell their own story first person, but then the interactions with Roy and Celestial being through the letters. But it sounds like for some of you that worked, and for some it didn't work so well.
I liked the letters a lot because it does away with it's a different method. It's a different insight into character than a narrator, even if it's a first person narrator. I think they're trying to expose themselves or express themselves to each other, to another character. It's different from dialogue, and it's different from, and this is what I thought next, and this is what I did, you know. So the first person is one way to do it, and another way is through the letters and how they struggled with that. And actually the letters were the only way they can communicate. So either that marriage was going to survive or not survive on the strength of those letters. And it just wasn't sufficient. I think I love the title. I think this is as an American marriage as any marriage. There's social injustices in so many aspects of American life. The divorce rate is very high in American life. I think classism is very much a part of American life. I just think this was a I think, a wonderful expose, treatment, um, exploration of an American marriage. And I like the use of the letters because it showed the characters interacting in a way that was really about their only way. So I enjoyed the use of the letters.
Yeah. I also like the letters. I seem to like, there've been other books. Is the word epistolary? What is the word? Somebody knows. Epistle something?
Epistolary.
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 Epistolary, where they use letters. And I've always liked that format. In terms of the American marriage, that's a good point that you make, Jane. But I guess I was wondering, as opposed to a French marriage or a Swedish marriage, or why it was so American. And I think, Beth, I thought of the same thing you did. Did it have to do with very particular situations in our country with police action against the African American community? I don't know that goes on so much in other countries. I found it hard to be sympathetic with Celestial, more than the other two, I guess. Roy, certainly, I was sympathetic with, although, as Jane said, the marriage was typical, and he had some dalliance, or at least had thought about some dalliances, and that happens too often. And Andre, I kind of understood. I mean, he loved Celestial from when they were young. But I didn't like Roy blaming Andre. I've always wondered about this whole issue of you always blame the guy. Well, it takes two to tango. So, I had trouble with Celestial a little bit.
I agree, Jane. I think she was self-centered throughout the whole book. She was as a child, she was in college, she was as a young married, and as a lady, going through such hardship with her husband in jail, but it was always about her. Was the way I read her.
Yeah.
I think another way that it was especially American is that we have more people incarcerated in this country than in any other first world country, and probably third world countries. What do we have, 2 million people in prison? That's an American phenomenon because we have criminalized so much behavior, and it does disproportionately affect people of color, especially blacks. But I think it's beyond that. I think it's the sheer number of people in prison, justly or unjustly. So that's an especially American aspect of our society.
I thought the whole idea, growing up in the South, I think that's very American. I mean, I don't think it would be the same way in Europe, for example.
Right.
That whole relationship of the whole town, I thought it was very American. One of the things, it took me a while as I read it, but over and over it came up that Celeste belonged to someone, to Roy. And it got to me after a while because I thought, to me, when I made my marriage vows, I didn't say I was going to be somebody's property. I didn't belong to someone. Except, I don't know how you felt, but I thought that came up over and over again.
Well, I got here a little bit late, sorry. So I really enjoyed the book like Carol did, I guess. And I like the letter format. I always find that very revealing of the characters themselves. And I thought coming from each point of view, and so you could really see when she did the individual chapters, what each person was thinking and why they were thinking that. And sometimes you didn't understand, like there was that one part where Celestial had this little jewelry box and there was a tooth in it. That was weird. And so, you didn't find out about that until, Roy was tearing the house apart looking for it and how important that was for him, So I really enjoyed how she kind of, dropped little hints, and then you were still wondering, well, what does that have to do with anything, So, and in my mind, I called it an American story. I don't know if it's an American marriage, but it's certainly an American story. And it's one that I don't think, being of a different race, that maybe we always understand all the nuances of that sort of thing. So I thought it was enlightening.
Well, I did read an interview with the author, and she said originally she set out to write a book on mass incarceration, and she did loads and loads and loads of research, but left a lot of it out because there was so much, but she didn't feel there was a story to it. So she had to have, something that she could relate to and make a story out of. So then it became more about the relationships and how the incarceration affects that than the actual mass incarcerations. So do you feel you still got some idea of prison life or Black men in prison even, or anything from it?
I think she did it very subtly, though. She kind of slipped the things in here and there through Roy talking to different people, and it really more toward the end than anywhere. But some pretty awful things came out that he didn't write about in his letters or talk to about with his father or anything like that. I think she made some major points or major what would you call it, reminders. I think a lot of us are aware of how bad things are and what goes on, but she did it very subtly in a effective way, I thought.
There was the one part about Celestial too, talking about her going to visit Roy in prison and how demeaning that was to her, that you had to be frisked and all that other stuff that I guess I didn't realize that happened either when you went to visit a person in prison, so you subject yourself also to some not very nice things, I guess you would say. It's nothing like being in the prison, obviously, but that probably wasn't a real pleasant experience either, so.
It was interesting too to hear about the other visitors that people had and family.
How long they got to stay.
So how do you think prison changed Roy, if it did?
Well, he met his father in prison, didn't he? His real father. That was interesting, and how he cared for him and kept him safe.
I think it humbled him somewhat. It squashed him.
Yeah, I think it definitely changed his priorities. He was always about, before that, he seemed pretty driven to, have a good career, have the good wife, still play around with people on the side and stuff. But he seemed, he had less ambitious goals for his life. And, was stopped chasing things and just was more interested in living his life. So yes, I think it changed him a lot. And plus meeting his father, whom I think he otherwise would have never met.
Right.
You wonder if the change of becoming not so materialistically driven was a change he had to make, because even though he was released from prison, he spent all that time there. What type of job was he going to get? He wasn't going to be able to get back into his former flashier life.
Well, and maybe that's one of the very major points she was trying to make about all these people who are invalidly incarcerated, wrongly charged. It wrecks your life. And we don't think enough about that, maybe.
What did you all think about her profession as an artist of those dolls? How did that fit in anywhere?
We have a lot of artists here. I guess I didn't think too much about it. I mean, that was her passion, I think, to be an artist had always been her passion. And in terms of the dolls, since she had had 2 abortions, I don't know if the dolls to her represented sort of not a replacement, but something that was healing, perhaps, something that she needed to do to deal with her feelings. And she made them look like Roy, so that I don't know
That's
quite
the
what to
thing.
think
She
of
made
that.
them look like Roy.
I'm not sure what to think of that. Any ideas? No? Any ideas, Jane?
Well, you know, in literature, there are always substitutes going on and symbols. And I think you're absolutely right. I think it was part of her, you know, she said she didn't want children. And she's had 2 abortions, whether or not, I think she's very young and immature in some ways. I think the dolls represent a level of a form of creation, exactly, a psychological mending, moving forward through it. Who knows what would have happened with these 2 if they had had time to mature together. You know, it just, I think making them look like Roy makes it also seem partly about her love for Roy. Again, he's a missing element in her life. You know, it's in some ways it seems such an obvious device on the part of the author to have her making babies that look like Roy and replacing her 2 aborted babies. But on the other hand, in the South, there's a strong tradition of making folk dolls, much stronger than here, say in the North. So, and much of it is a Black tradition, but not exclusively. So there are, it's sort of like quilting. It becomes its own art form, and it's an especially folk art, and I think especially there's a very well-known artist, and I can't think of her last name, Beverly somebody, who makes shacks. And they're just decrepit shacks, but that's what she does. I think it's I think it may have a long background, a long tradition coming perhaps even from the earlier days of slavery, that is just it has moved forward into current times as an art form. So you know, it's just there. So I think it has a tradition. I think it's not surprising, or I don't think it's meant to be creepy that she's making dolls. I think it clearly can be a symbol, but I also think it's a legitimate choice given the Southern tradition and her own background, Celestial's background.
Didn't she start making the dolls kind of as a form of therapy after that first abortion? And she, you know, left one college and went to the other, and she just kind of started making dolls as a therapy. And I think it just it turned into something else then, maybe. I don't know.
Well, it started to turn into money.
Yes, that's a big money, I guess.
Which means she clearly rose above the personal need and into the artistic level of people paying big bucks for it.
Right, right.
I think it was great that she decided to pursue it. I think that was her growth pattern in the novel, in her life, was she needed to move forward herself. And it's very hard to have the anchor of someone in prison because they're not moving forward, and your life on the outside is moving forward. And I think it would be unrealistic to expect her at that age and with her potential for future growth in the art world to hang on to Roy. And I thought she was an interesting character, and I was very sympathetic with her character more than either Roy or Andre. I found Roy the least sympathetic.
She was a very independent woman.
Certainly becoming so.
Yeah, as she matured.
Oh, that's so interesting.
So there wouldn't have been much of a story as it is now, but if Roy had never been convicted, do you think they would have stuck it out, grown together, stayed together, had kids?
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think
I
so.
I think they would have, because it was Roy's idea to name the place Poupe or whatever it was called, and he was going to do the marketing stuff. And I mean, I think they could have, joined together a little bit better.
Yeah, but there was always a thing between her and Andre, and that may have reared itself anyway. I mean, I feel like they always loved each other, she and Andre. And I don't know. I mean, that may have complicated the marriage, even if this didn't happen, but we'll never know that.
Right, because he was comforting her, right? I mean, he wouldn't have been doing that if that hadn't happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if Roy would ever have gotten over this issue of there was this different social standing he always felt between himself and her family, and her father, and kind of I don't know that he would have gotten over his competitiveness. He at one point seemed like he was resentful that she was doing so well, in a way. Like, she didn't mention him when she talked about her achievements as a doll maker and with her business. And would he have stopped, having fun on the side? And I don't know, he had some issues. Maybe they would have worked through them. I don't know.
Well, I thought he had a chip on his shoulder. He always felt disadvantaged. He felt her family was better. He felt he didn't fit in. He felt her parents looked down on him. I mean, there was not really a lot of evidence for that. It was mostly in his head.
Right. I agree.
And that's what I thought eventually might have broken up their marriage, is him feeling not worthy or whatever it was.
Do you get any sense if she's more compatible with Andre versus Roy?
A little bit.
In the long run, I'm not sure they're going to make it either. I don't think any of these final relationships are going to make it. I don't know about Roy and what was her name? Davina, something. It was forged. Their relationship was forged in rather a strange way. A couple days spent together when he first got out of prison. That's sort of an intense way to start a relationship. But on the other hand, they are the ones that ended up married. Mm-hmm. And Celestial never wanted to get married, even to Andre. And I would think she would just move forward in her life. And Andre, I think, is going to stay where he is. Roy and Davina, I have no idea. I think Roy's going to struggle. Like, he's going to struggle because he's got prison behind him, and they virtually can never overcome that.
Well, he sounded like he was moving along and somewhat happy. He and his dad started a business, a barbershop and something else together, and he sounded contented, much more contented. And Celestial was going to have a baby, which I'd forgotten until now. Remember? She said she told him they were going to have a daughter. Kind of an interesting way to add that to her at the end, I thought.
Yeah, she has the baby and Roy gets married.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I thought it was, I don't know, interesting probably isn't the word, how when Celestial and Roy were together and they were in bed, how he could feel every part of her, that she was only doing that because she thought she should, and that she should take care of him and be good to him, because she owed that to him, but he could feel it and he stopped it and ended the night. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, that was. Did anyone ever doubt Roy's innocence through this?
No,
Down
I didn't.
Although wouldn't that been another twist?
Yeah, but
Not even.
it didn't make sense. I mean, they described the woman as heavy set, and didn't he say about the same age as his mother? I don't remember. It just didn't sound like. I mean, he had no reason.
Well, except for he
It
had
didn't make
left.
sense to me.
Yeah, they had argued, and
Well,
Celestial had said, no, we're not having kids, and things were tense, and he was thinking about his side piece, and so it could have been.
I don't know.
He did. I think he did show at least that he had the potential. Woo, cuckoo.
that was my clock.
And the potential for violence, even if he had that in him to
Uh,
when he should. But so the author never says what race the woman is who accuses him of rape. Is that significant, or did you fill in that blank when you were reading?
I just assumed she was white.
I didn't. No, I didn't think about that.
Oh, I assumed she was white.
I assumed she was white because she identified the wrong black man.
Yeah.
Oh,
Exactly.
good point, Jane.
Didn't have enough experience differentiating.
Good, Jane. That's a good point.
Mhm.
Interesting. Where was he tried? He was tried in Louisiana? Plus, he was tried in Louisiana, and we don't know what the jury makeup was, and all that business. So you're probably right. Probably a white woman.
I thought they said it was a mostly black jury, wasn't it?
Oh,
Am I crazy?
I forget that part. That would. Huh. I don't know.
There was one part where that stuck in my mind where you have to be careful how you are black people, how they act and talk with the police. It said something like they'd rather face 12 dwarves than 6 pallbearers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They also described how they took the Celestial and Roy out of the motel room, which that was pretty violent given. And I immediately thought, well, would they have done that if it was a white couple? She was injured. I mean, they dragged them out and slammed them down in the parking lot. And just like still happens today.
Yeah, sounded
On
pretty.
the news tonight, I saw a pretty horrible thing. Mom and her kids. I don't know if anybody else saw that.
Oh yeah, that happened a couple days ago. Yeah, that was
The police thought they were in a
horrible.
stolen car, and it was their own car, and they made all
Right.
people lay on the pavement.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was pretty horrible.
And he handcuffed the mom and one of the kids.
They said Aurora.
Colorado.
Oh, okay. Because the police chief wasn't. I was doing something else, but she offered to pay for therapy for the children, all laying face down on the pavement with their mother.
It's interesting how the author worked those things in, though, isn't it? She worked in these issues in this story.
Anyone else haunted by the story of him buying that pair and the implications of that?
Okay, remind me of that. What was Forgot about that.
What he,
What did he trade? He traded.
Oh, at the prison, yes. The pear in the black bag.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took me a while to figure that out, what was really happening.
Yeah.
It sounded like it took Roy a while to figure it out too, and that he didn't really think it through when he just wanted the pear.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was that, I thought that's what I meant. She did these things really well in a very subtle, that kind of subtle sliding those things in, but then they kind of hit you.
Yeah.
When you realize what she's talking about.
What about them having the abortion? Was that wise? How did that change things? Or how would it have changed if they'd had a baby?
That was while he was in prison, right? She
Right.
found out?
Yeah.
I think that would have made things worse.
Think so?
I think it would have made things worse. Yeah.
Well, I don't think they would have been ready. It wouldn't have hurt. Babies don't mend a relationship. So even so people think that, I think babies are not a liability, but I mean, they add a lot of things to a marriage that wasn't there before. So I don't think would have worked.
I didn't care. I got the impression from that section that she was kind of saying, well, you were the one that really wanted me to get the abortion. And she wasn't sharing. Again, it was one of those times when I felt like she was not taking her responsibility for things. Rather than saying it was a joint decision. If she was so strong and had a mind of her own, then she had no need to try to imply it was all his fault that she went ahead and got the abortion. Did anybody else read it that way?
Yeah.
I thought they both kind of had a chip on their shoulder because they were Black. And they had to prove themselves over and over again. And not having children, I think she wanted to be a city girl. She wanted the freedom of creating all those dolls. And as we all know, having children takes a lot of time. It would have been a very different life for her.
That's what I mean. I think she also had made that decision, but she kind of made it sound in the book like, well, I did it for you. You didn't want the baby. And I didn't care for that sort of implication. But I may have read it wrong.
No, she wasn't always nice, I didn't think. She certainly had her set of problems.
Yeah.
At least from the letters, it seemed like we got the impression this wasn't something they really had a good heart-to-heart talk and came to a mutual agreement on. They kind of seemed to have some blame towards each other, and yeah. Jane, you're trying to talk and you're muted.
I was thinking that same thing. They each blame each other from their points of view. One says, "Oh, is that what you think happened?" And he says, "Is that what you think I said?" And I think the letters indicate just how truncated their communication was. That they never really were able to communicate easily again. And while they might have bared some of their basic feelings in those letters don't allow that give and take that in-person stuff does. So it's just a matter of it. I think Jane is being a little harsh on Celestial about her trying to force it off on somebody else, because I think Roy did equally the same thing once he found out that she was pregnant. He was sort of sliding through. I think he was trying to force her into a decision instead of maybe standing up and taking also responsibility for and how could they make a decision? I mean, they've been barely together, what, 18 months?
Right.
And, you know, she's pregnant for, after an abortion, and oh my God, he's going to be in prison for 12 years and she's going to be stuck with a kid. You know, it's just, how difficult these lives were made because of that one mistaken identity, or deliberately mistaken identity, and false incarceration. All of their hardships were then sort of hardened into granite. You know, there was no room for much movement in any direction. Just a tragedy. This could
So
be
you
an American tragedy instead
Yeah,
of an
that's
American marriage.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It'd be a better title, yeah.
Already
So you
taken.
just said something interesting. You said maybe a deliberately false incarceration. What did you mean by that, Jane?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when you were talking, you said something about the false incarceration and maybe a deliberately
Or
false
false identification.
identification. I'm
False
sorry. Yeah.
identification. Well, you know, there are many cases where a woman is raped and she really wants some resolution, or the people around her want a resolution, and so people just fall into making identifications. I didn't mean it like as part of the system. I think people are very poor eyewitnesses even to the crime they're involved in, statistically. So she just, and perhaps it was a black man who raped her. So she said, yeah, that must be the man. So in that sense, I was thinking, not that she set out to set him up, but that she was perhaps not careful enough and wanted to bring it to resolution. I just, because it just seems so strange that they had the conversation in the motel, and then she later says, oh yeah, he's the guy. It seems sort of almost
Convenient.
on her part. Not that she was raped, but her readiness to ID somebody. That's, I guess I was thinking, was it seemed ready, because he was there in the hotel. And so she said, yeah, that's him. You know, so perhaps not with malice or forethought, just too easily ID'd one man for another.
Well, and not, you didn't mean that she knew he wasn't the right
I
person.
didn't. No,
It's like, no, okay.
no.
Because the way you said deliberately, that just made me wonder.
Yeah,
That's
I
all.
was thinking more from that closure, finishing it out, as opposed to knowing full well she was
Yeah.
misidentifying someone.
But where was the police? I mean, after naturally he was black, so no one took him seriously, but he always denied having raped her. His wife gave him an alibi. Why wasn't there any more investigation? I mean,
Yeah.
it was rather discouraging, I think.
And maybe another point she was making. Oh, go ahead, Marcia.
Yeah, they had the case solved. You know, she said that's him, and so they were done.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They just liked having a closed case. Like,
And didn't he admit to them that they had argued?
Yes.
Yeah.
I found it a difficult novel to read, not because of the language or anything. It just is, there's just so many sad aspects to it that it just was a difficult read. And I do think it ended somewhat hopefully, like the barber shop and Roy and Davina. I would like for them to continue into success. But I found it just a difficult, I didn't want to pick it up and read it. You know, I'd read sections and then go do something else. And it was a tough read, I thought. And to me, that tells me the author did her job of telling a tough story and making you feel it. But I just thought it was a hard read.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's a love triangle for sure. And I think the author said someplace, who is to blame when everyone is innocent? Who is to blame when everyone is innocent? And then what is the value of blame? You know, there's no point in blaming anybody for these things. That's just what happened. And like Celeste was moving on, and you know, that's about all you can do in that situation. So you can't go back and change things. You can't go back how you feel. You can't go back from your childhood. You know, your childhood influences so much in your life. So yeah, I agree with Jane. It was very sad. It was just sad all around.
I agree. And I mean, the whole thing that an innocent man can be put into prison for 12 years, it's like, where's that happening in the United States? And it's hard to believe. Yeah.
We should.
And yet you kind of felt for him, as you know, whether you liked him or not, you kind of could see his struggles coming out, and he just wanted things to be like they were, and there was no way that was
No.
going to happen. Did you see any outcomes possible where these three main characters could have come out okay, or is that not possible once you've got that triangle?
Yeah.
I think Celeste would make a good mother. Celestial. I think when she decides to keep that baby, she's headed forward. I think she'll work out okay with or without Andre. And they may actually, as long as she manages her independence, which she might do by not getting married and raising that daughter. Maybe it was a daughter. I can't remember the baby. I think it, I don't know. I go back and forth between thinking they're just an utter mess, all of them. And what's the hope? And then back to thinking, well, you know, maybe she and Andre really might make it. They've been through life together. They've been through a lot. There they are. They got through Roy. They got through all of that mess. And then maybe Roy will make it with his,
Could happen.
I just go back and forth.
I was hopeful at the end. I thought it was a hopeful ending.
Yeah. It was a surprise ending to me. I didn't see that coming, you know. I couldn't figure out where they could end up here. And so it was a total surprise to me what ended up.
I think they'll make it.
Yeah, okay.
All of them?
Well,
Oh,
I couldn't relate to
that's
any
because
of
I'm a
the
hopeless
characters.
romantic.
Ursula, what were you trying to say?
I'm just saying, I found it not that easy to read also because I didn't really relate to any of the characters. I mean, their lives were so different than mine. I mean, I can imagine me being sitting in prison without hope to get out, more or less. It sounds absolutely devastating to me. Would that change someone? Yeah, I think so. And the fact that he met his father there, well, there was a book. So yeah, that was also highly unlikely that would happen.
He also had every reason in the world to be very, very angry and resentful for being sent to prison when he wasn't guilty. And then when he got out, he lost his wife to his friend. But it seemed like Davina saved him because she accepted him in his life in prison. And this is what he needed.
Yeah, but there was such a short period of time that he knew Davina. Who knows how that would have developed? I mean, it wasn't really a real relationship yet. It was just, what, a couple months, if it was that much?
Well, they knew each other in high school.
High school, yeah.
They knew each other in high school.
They grew up not together, but they knew each other as children.
Interesting to see how that went from when he was back with Celestial briefly and then back to Davina, what all happened in between there. I guess we can only imagine it, but seems interesting.
After he told her he couldn't be with her and how angry she got at him when he told her that. And then he realized, maybe she's better for him. Celeste doesn't want him.
When he's
Celeste.
sort of going back to his roots. You know, he had
Right.
always wanted
True.
to get out of the small town, and
Right.
and be in the big city and all the flash of that. And here he was going back to where he was from, which he had always tried to run away from.
Yeah, I don't know that he was ever real comfortable. I think he wanted the flashiness, but I'm not sure he was ever really comfortable, really deep down with that. And so he overcompensated perhaps by, thinking about having an affair and dressing Natalie and, doing all these things that weren't really him. I think now he's probably feeling more in his own skin in his hometown.
Did anybody else have trouble understanding some of that, what I would call the Black nuance language that she was using? Like his mother worked at the meat and three. What is the meat and three? And then there was something about opting for the swirl, and then Jasmine and Bernadette's clothing, and then rocking a Caesar like mine. I mean, there were just a couple sprinkled in there. I thought, okay, I really wonder what that means. Not that it was necessary to the story, but it was just like, okay, I don't really understand what that means, and I didn't have anybody to ask.
Google.
You know what they are now? The meat and three thing is a Southern thing. It's not even a particularly Black thing, I don't think. It's the meat and three sides at the diner. That's how they serve.
There you go.
Oh, see, I didn't get that. I didn't know that.
I had just read it in a different book.
Oh, yeah, what was the other one? And then there was one time she talked about the fixed income shade of orange. I don't know what she was talking about, but that was a phrase that I loved. The fixed income shade of orange. I like that.
Okay. I don't remember that one.
Yeah, well, it's on page 148 if you want to check it out. So I forget what she was talking about, but I thought that was a good way of describing the color of orange, whatever this was, the fixed income color. I think of like being in a bus terminal, and the chairs, those things that you sit in, they're orange, I don't know.
Makes me think of cheese because my grandparents always got like the government issue cheese. Would have been a particular shade of orange.
Maybe that's it.
What did you think of when Roy came home and the interactions with him and Celestial and Andre, and it got quite violent for a little bit, and there was just a whole lot that happened once he came home. Any thoughts on all those interactions or how it all panned out in the end?
I thought it was sort of funny how Roy's father misled Andre on purpose so that Roy had more time with Celestial. I thought that was sort of a humorous section.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh, my phone doesn't work. The bill didn't pay the bill. And then it rings.
Yeah, and I thought it was necessary. I mean, it was unrealistic that Roy and Celestial weren't going to see each other after all they had been through together and not together, but, not his fault, not together. And, they had to see each other. I don't know. There's a lot of ways that meeting could have gone, but I think it was necessary that they saw each other. I think it's necessary that he and Andre saw each other after he got released. What exactly happened in there, like I said, could have gone different ways, but they had to all see each other.
I think it's unrealistic of Andre and Celestial to think that they could have Roy come and say, oh, you can stay in this house and we can be friends. And I thought that was really unrealistic. Mm-hmm. Not that they couldn't ever be friends, but to just expect them to accept that situation that Andre now was with Celestial and he should just, sort of accept that and be friendly and no problems.
Yeah.
I didn't think the fight was necessary. Again, he's beaten up on this guy, kind of blaming the guy for he and his wife getting together. Right? I've never understood that. When
I think it's when with Carol was saying about how Roy has has so many reasons to be angry. I think that's the anger.
Yeah.
That fight scene was all of those years of anger coming out, and it landed on Andre.
Yeah.
And, I think Andre understood that. He said, "Let him go. Let it happen." He was lucky he wasn't killed. And Roy did start to back off. But I think that's where that anger showed up. It was physical. It was immediate.
And the tree.
Emotions were high, and he just wanted to kill somebody. And he did say at some point that he killed somebody in prison, I thought.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And so,
Yes.
that's how prison changed Roy. He became quite capable of killing, which is not an uncommon change in prison. So I think that's where that anger came out. And I wasn't the least bit surprised that he simply started swinging. It was interesting. He took it to the tree.
Tree, right.
And that was instead of taking the axe to Celestial. I mean, those were his choices. Either axe her or axe the tree. And he chose to axe the tree. So in that way, he was showing great restraint. Because I think he really wanted to kill them both. But he didn't. So I think that's that anger showing itself. And it's understandable because it's physical. Yeah.
I think of Roy's mother. I think of Roy's mother who so shielded him from his father so that he wouldn't become like his father, and then he ends up in a jail cell with him.
Yeah.
What about that reminds me of the misunderstanding of when his mother died. And Roy Sr. thought it was because Celestial said something about meeting his biological father, but it was really that she knew he would take care of him in there, which was kind of an interesting twist on what we first thought about that.
And that she felt comfortable to die then because she knew Roy would be okay. Right. We hear that so many times, hang on, and then once you feel everybody's okay, then you can go. Did you all talk about how the author got this idea that she overheard this conversation at an Atlanta food mall? And characters from that. Yeah, you just never know where the stories are going to come from, do you?
Yeah, I think that was in the video I sent. Hopefully some of you got a chance to watch that. But yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. Just the little bits you overhear and you have a kind of form a story around it.
Has she written other books? I don't remember.
She has. This is her fourth book, and it's also the latest. I don't know if she's writing now. They're all set in or around Atlanta. So the first one is called Leaving Atlanta, The Untelling, and Silver Sparrow. Those are her other three. So based on reading this one, would any of you be interested in reading her other books?
No, I didn't.
Maybe.
We're kind of mixed on this one.
There's so many good books out there. I mean, it was interesting, informative, but I wouldn't have to read another one like that.
I do agree some of it was sad and tragic, but I appreciate the way she wrote it and thought some of it was really beautifully written.
Yeah. In my notes from the other discussion, I don't know how accurate this is, but at the other discussion, they said that the author was 49 at the time, a year and a half ago. First book for adults, and that it was an Oprah book. So the other ones might be for young adults or something.
I don't know that they were. I don't think I saw that anywhere.
Let me see if I can look it up.
Yeah. This one did win quite a number of awards and is on many lists. It also won the Bailey's Women's Prize for Fiction, not related to the Bailey's Harbor Library or the Bailey's Women's Club, but I thought that was interesting. And she is a professor of English and creative writing at Emory University in Atlanta.
I like that Celestial's dad was a high school chemistry teacher that made really good.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the breakthrough was. I was going to go back and find it, but I don't remember what his patent was or what he got. But I thought it was great that he was a high school chemistry teacher, and mom, the second mom or whatever. So I guess it was Celestial's mom. She was a social studies teacher, so I thought that was good. I like that part.
It was something strange, like a preservative for orange juice or something, wasn't it?
That's right. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he sold it to Minute Maid, I think.
Yeah, makes sense.
Another shade of orange. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, looking at the descriptions of those other 3 books, I don't think they're for children. The Silver Sparrow.
Well, I don't think children. I thought maybe younger people. Anyway, it
No.
said first one for adults. I don't know.
Yeah, because this one,
Interesting.
the Silver Sparrow starts out with the opening line of Silver Sparrow, "My father is a bigamist." After Sharon Jones and Dale, a breathtaking story about a man's deception, a family's complicity, and 2 teenage girls caught in the middle.
Oh.
So
That sounds happy.
I'll cross that part out. Eight times.
Sorry about that.
Any other thoughts on this book? Anything we didn't cover?
I found it interesting. I liked her writing. I just can't decide if I'm going to recommend it to my other book club, which, some books I don't hesitate at all. And it's not that I'm hesitating. I just don't know if I want to read it again. So there's that. I did like it. I would read another of her books, I think. I think she's an excellent writer. I do. I think she draws you. I think that's why I found the book so hard to read. I do think she just really draws you in, even if it's not close to your story, your own story. I certainly felt for those people.
She pushed buttons, huh?
Yeah.
In a way, I think she pushed buttons that we didn't like having them pushed.
Mm-hmm.
For a while, I couldn't figure out what Andre was. And then finally, someplace halfway through the book, he's half Puerto Rican and Black. I was like, oh, wow, we didn't even get into any of what his life must have been like being half Puerto Rican and half Black in Atlanta,
And whose dad left when he was...
Yeah, he had a rotten, well, he didn't have a very good growing up life, I guess you'd say, maybe.
So,
yeah.
Roy's dad left, Andre's dad left, and Celestial's dad left his first wife.
That's
I
right.
don't know if they had children, People that had trouble with commitment.
Yeah. Early commitment anyway. Later on commitment seems to last, so.
What are we reading next month?
We are going in an entirely different direction. This is going to be backwards, but at least you'll see the lovely raccoon on the cover.
Uh-oh. We've been having trouble with a raccoon. We want to kill them.
Oh no! lots of raccoons in this book. This author has something for raccoons. So Furiously Happy, Jenny Lawson. She is a writer, journalist, and she's a very successful blogger. She's known as the Bloggess. And let me just read what she says about this book. It's not very long. For most of my life, I've battled depression, anxiety, and a host of other disorders. But I wrote this book less as a manual of how to survive mental illness and more of a compendium on how to thrive in spite of your brain being a real bastard.
Huh.
Some of it is very serious and some of it is very funny, but I hope you'll find it all is very honest, baffling, and relatable in ways that may make you question your own sanity.
Oh, great. We all need to be doing that right now.
Oh, I have no question. So was that an extra copy there you had, Tracy, or not really?
It was just spoken for, but I do have others on the way. So yes, if you
Good.
want.
And how did you hear about it? Did you read it or did?
I have read this. There are some parts, she's got some language to her, and there's a couple anecdotes that might be a little harsh, but I'm still hoping everybody will read it, and I think we'll have a good discussion about mental struggles, and she does handle a lot of it in a humorous way, which is kind of fun at times. So.
By the way, I just wanted to mention to Cheryl, there's an article about the figurative language of Tayari Jones, where they talk about all of those kinds of things that you mentioned. It's in a publication called Publication Coach, but the title of the article is "The Figurative Language of Tayari Jones."
Interesting. I'm writing that down too. I'll try to maybe send that all to you.
Thanks, yeah.
It doesn't really explain what they mean.
No.
What, Marcia?
Can you get copies of Furiously Happy? Tracy, can you drop us along?
Tracy, I'll send this to you.
Yes, please do. Please do. That'll be easy, and I can forward it all to you.
Thanks, Linda.
She seems to be an interesting woman and well-spoken, and it sounds like her speaking engagements are often very popular. So.
Oh, I bet they would be great. Yeah. I've started that book, Furiously Happy, and it's an interesting read. So don't let the topic, just dive right into it.
That's good advice, yes.
How about October's book, Tracy? Do you have any of those?
I do have one, yes.
What's the title?
More on the way. The Guest List.
No, that's November.
Oh. Is
Daisy
it?
Jones and the
Oh,
Six?
yes, I do have one of those. Daisy Jones and the Six. Yes. I got it, Linda. Thank you. But yeah, I have a couple copies of each and more on the way. So.
What was the October one?
Daisy Jones and the Six.
Thank you, Jane. That one might be interesting too. It's based on a fictional rock band from the 70s. We're kind of going all over the place now.
That's good. That's good. That's why we're in a book club, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't that what a book club is supposed to do? Drag you kicking and screaming into different different reading.
Screaming. Or crying and raging.
Exactly. But every now and then you're really surprised. I did not anticipate, I can't say this enough, liking Station 11.
Yeah.
And I loved it. Yeah.
That was the one I think we got the most comments similar to, I would not have read this, but I'm glad I did.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Especially now.
Yeah, and now scenes from
I
that.
don't read that genre usually. Yeah.
Yeah, and that will be the Dark County Read coming up in February. I think you all have heard that. So it might be interesting to revisit again now that we've been through
Our own Station 11.
Yeah, but we are in this pandemic, and yeah.
Station 12.
Yeah.
Station
2020, I don't know.
Cheryl.
I'm calling this a gap year for the world, you know. It's just like a gap year for the world.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope it's just a year.
Yeah.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. But for now, we will probably continue to meet virtually. There's no plans to have any library programming in person for a while yet. So I'm glad we're able to do this at least.
You too. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming, and see you at the library or back online sometime.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.